I remember the first Extreme Demon I ever played. Yeah, it's coming to me now. It was December 2014 and I played a level by the name of Alphabet X. You've probably heard of it, it's not very obscure. It's one of the most well-known 1.6 levels. Anyway, I was just blown away. I spent all day trying to complete a practice run of the level. When I managed to get through, I remember taking a screenshot because I was proud of myself even getting through it in practice. That 748 attempt practice run really stuck to me because it was the first and most importantly only time I was really impressed by the difficulty of a level. At the time my hardest demon was Decode and I was scratching my head wondering how the level was even verified. I spent hours of practice mode just looking for secret ways wondering how he did it. Because this was a full month before the mute troll came in, I didn't know that the answer was just cheat engine. Eventually I forgot about the level and later in January 2015 I was flipping through the featured section and I stumbled upon a level with 25,000 downloads, which was quite a bit for a recently released level. I opened it out of curiosity and I was met with this. If you think Cataclysm now is extremely difficult, just imagine how it looked on day 1. To us 1.9 plebs, it was basically impossible. There was no chance that it would be beaten for a long time. For a solid month, no one really made much significant progress besides a couple of flukes. Whenever the top one was released back then, there was a pretty simple process to beating it. That being to open cheat engine and lie to everyone's faces like the maniacal coward you are. By that logic, Cataclysm should have been toppled in a week, but that didn't really happen. The mute troll video came out by that point and actually showed people how to spot hackers. He didn't do a very good job, but everyone knew at least a few places to look for them. Since everyone knew how to catch hackers, no one really tried to pull that stunt with Cataclysm. Until someone did. I've talked about this goober before. Lyra Bandicoot didn't really get very far as he just got exposed about a month later when everyone realised that he was just a big loser with poor editing skills. So 3 months later, Cataclysm was still untouched. The furthest anyone really got into it was the 50s or 60s at the time. Even a titan like Bloodbath had good runs within a couple of weeks. But there was a second method that no one really tried, that being actually having the skill to beat the level legitimately. Which Cyclic successfully ignored as he abused the respect and credibility to completely fabricate a completion of Cataclysm. Shortly after that, people started beating the level legit in floods, and by that I mean only about 5 people. So how come this only happened about 5 months later? How come people weren't inspired to beat it back when Lyra Bandicoot did it? Why was Cyclic the one to burst the bubble? That obviously being because Lyra Bandicoot was a complete nobody who just bluffed his completion and got exposed by everyone. The key word being everyone. Nobody, and I repeat nobody, is motivated by something that isn't even fucking real. Nobody's inspired by this, but people are inspired by this. As we all know now, Cyclic was hacking, but at the time no one knew that. The effect it gave off went something like this. Oh shit, someone beat it. I might as well give it a shot. By then the ball really got rolling. The first real legit player was Gyron David, quite possibly the most underrated and underexposed person of all of Geometry Dash history. His levels were excellent and he was a top contender for the best player. To this day I have no clue how he got overshadowed by everyone else, but I do have a good guess. Despite being the 4th victor, Riot completely stole the show from everyone else with one of the most iconic reactions this game ever had. Nepesta took that title away in 2020, but for years it's the single most iconic moment in all of Geometry Dash, only rivaled by a few. If anything's consistent, people like seeing others completely fucking lose their minds, and if anything, that's what's boosted him to being the most famous victor of the bunch. Adding that much personality to completion is one of the most noteworthy ways to write yourself into the history books. But there was also something else about the video that made it so important. If I quickly pan the camera to the bottom left, you may notice the large number. Despite Cataclysm being this massive important level and all, none of it really mattered. What people remembered wasn't how difficult it was, or the quality, or even the race to beating it. What people remembered was this. This is what they remember. What people took from the whole Cataclysm escapade was the link between hard levels and attention. If you've been in this community for about 10 seconds now, you've probably noticed the majority of it is a bunch of stupid 10-year-olds. Or alternatively, 15-year-olds questioning their sexuality. I'm not sure which one I'll want to be around less, so you're very welcome to pick your poison, but that's what's making up most of the community. You're probably familiar with both of these groups, and if there's anything all of them want, it's attention. Cataclysm might as well have had a giant neon sign pointing to it because everyone saw it, but that neon sign wasn't on forever. Eventually, the Cataclysm hype burned out and people need another red extreme demon to soak up the relevance like a sanity sponge. Yeah, they'll probably do it. Bloodbath was the second level in making a level as hard as possible for attention genre, and to put it mildly, it was quite successful. Unlike what happened with Cataclysm, people knew right away to grind the level as hard as possible. Players grinded and grinded, but no one could really get to it. Riot was the only one who could successfully pull it off. No one could beat it, not without help. Luckily for everyone, help was on the way. Here's something you can do right now. Load up the Geometry Dash 1.9 private server. Make 2 rows of spikes with opposite ends 1 space apart. Now that you've got that, make a straight fly section and try to go at it. You may notice that it feels like carrying a fucking 12-story building on your back. You new players might not know this, but in 1.9 the ship physics are actually way different from what they are now. Right now a straight fly is a relatively simple skill to master, but back then that was certainly not the case. Bloodbath was the very last season of 1.9, and everyone getting a boost literally an hour later certainly helped with their quest. But unfortunately the top players didn't really care that much. Basically what I'm saying here is the race was filled with mostly underachieving scrubs. For these guys, easy ship physics weren't enough to power them to mediocre victory. But once again, something unexpected came to their rescue. Despite Riot's skill, it would be a lie to say that he had absolutely no help. He did most of the heavy lifting himself, but he accidentally also lucked into a feature that secured his success. Before him, nobody really found any type of hardware that boosted the player's skill, but after Riot came along people sure did. 2.0 ushered in a period of time known to the community as the 144Hz revolution, which to sum it all up, made things easier. Now that they had a hardware boost, the bottom feeder scrubs could actually have a slight chance to compete with the big boys. Not to the top level obviously, but just enough so people could finally start beating extreme demons, which Medley established as a keyword with lots of power. Eventually by mid 2.0, the new round of top players emerged and all the big names are a bunch of wealthy 15-year-olds that took full advantage of daddy's cash. Extreme demons weren't really an event anymore, and anyone with a bit of time in their hands and more importantly spare cash could manage to topple one just fine. The attention people got from extreme demons diminished as the title alone didn't really get people as erect as they did 10 months before. It looks like extreme demons would just fade away as people would pull their head out of their ass and actually make a living that doesn't fucking suck. But that was until everyone decided the most important thing to do with their spare time was to categorize which collective of shapes is harder than the other. The demons list is a completely inexplicable phenomenon, but in the same way Watch Mojo was a phenomenon. It's kind of difficult to believe so many people all of a sudden cared about this extended top 10 list. Back in 2.0, the official 5 demon ratings didn't even exist, and we instead had about 8 or 9 fan-made demon ratings. The important thing about these ratings is that they're just ratings. An objective phrase that anyone can throw on something with little meaning or weight. Naturally people wanted to have more order, so in 2014 the first attempts to categorize the hardest levels in the game started with good intentions. By the time 2016 was rolling around, about a third or more of the community had at least some knowledge of its existence. The system was created solely for the community to have a consistent way of defining what the hardest levels are. But the creators of this list did not expect that there was a new method of exposure for the up and coming creators. If not for the list, people wouldn't have discovered classics such as... Needless to say, back then the demons list was filled with mostly garbage. But creators have recently taken great strides on that. Back then there was only one good level on the top 50, and now 6 years later we have 2. The demon list truly earned their most improved trophy this year. Usually when the next big extreme demon needed to verify, all they had to do was hop in the old telephone box and give them a call. And then they'd just upload a random uncut video of them beating it in silence. The mods would just send it to Robbo and he'll get it rated just like that. The demons list guys would get harassment messages to check on the list every single day, and eventually after 3 days or so it would get placed at a humble 24th, where it would remain on the demons list for about a few seconds, and then it would slip on for the next hot fad, and then everyone forgets about the level because it was most likely a big pile of shit. The level itself faded pretty quick, but the numbers, oh boy, they sure stayed there alright. Every time an extreme demon was released, dozens of mindless cash sniffers bet the level and upload it to each of their expendable YouTube channels, where the video would reach approximately 1/5 of their viewer base, which still meant each of them had thousands of views, because Betrayal of Fate looked so much better on the 6th viewing. People were after attention and people got it relatively naturally. At the time there were only about 50 levels to keep track of, so even number 38 got some love on the list. Eventually the list started getting bigger and bigger. because the list owners really like doing extra work for no reason. In a short period of time, the state of extreme demons became, oh boy, I can't wait to try it, into what the fuck is a Dolos really quick. And soon enough, number 33 wasn't good enough, and the novelty of being a list demon wore out pretty quick, because I'm pretty sure you would take something less seriously when Killbot is loitering at 79. Around last year, people stopped caring about the extreme demon, or even the top 20 demon. Remember, these levels are made for attention and basically nothing else. This wasn't good enough to get their views, and especially not enough to make their dad not disappointed in them. What they needed was absolute perfection and nothing less. Look at a preview of any random upcoming extreme demon. Notice any patterns? Apparently the community is suddenly 50 times more picky than they were 4 years ago, and they won't watch anything unless it's got literally world record breaking difficulty. How things used to work back in 2016 is that there were 50 levels on the list. According to YouTube, there are about 73 top 1s in the past month. You know what, instead of the hardest one, let's actually look for the best. Can you believe nobody played this? I have no clue how many mediocre glow levels with terrible lag existed until now. I don't know what the fuck a firework is, but it's got a lot of internet points, so I'll check that one. This level looks like it would be as fun as chugging fiberglass. I don't really get it. This is one of the popular ones and it looks terrible. Apparently people want VSC rated. Why? This level is just 15 nanoseconds long and it plays like getting your dick stuck in a tree branch. Why would you want this rated? Anyone remember when Conical Depression was rated and everyone lost their fucking minds because the level was awful? Robo said it was only rated because it was difficult. Everyone would think it would completely ruin the featured section. Rob said it was only a one-time thing, which he didn't seem to uphold that promise very well. I don't see any garbage here, nothing but timeless classics as far as the eye can see. You know, I wouldn't be complaining about these if they weren't all shit. I do have another theory about why these videos get so many views. If you look at most of these, many of the top comments are just by random dudes. My theory is that the less skill you have, the more likely you are to be around hard demons. I reckon what makes these goddamn videos so popular is because the people watching these literally had no clue how. They probably only found this game in 2019 and they don't even know where the extreme demon filter is. It's literally right there in the search. How could you Okay, anyway, I think this explanation holds up fine. Why else would anyone choose to discover new levels incredibly slowly through the method of watching YouTube videos of them? It completely spoils the surprise and experience people have by playing it on their own. I really like playing Insane Demons, for example, and you wanna know how I look for new ones? Boom, here's 50 of them right here. Surely it's just a counterintuitive method to add all these extra steps just by depersonalizing your own experiences. Here's a thought experiment. Try to remember the first time you ever played Bloodbath. You're struggling? Well, that's what happens when you played the level 150 times over. Nowadays, if you hear news that someone beat Bloodbath, you probably won't really give a shit. Even though at the time it was once by far the hardest thing that ever was made. When you hear about something happening over and over and over, you tend to not really give a fuck. And it's only gonna get less and less impressive as time goes on. The entire concept of this was launched off and maintained by exploiting a feedback loop. Back in 2018 or so, people began to say the new trend was going to be about really good levels instead of really hard ones. Which didn't really happen. Most of the big fancy new levels were extreme demons anyway, and most of them were just over-decorated laggy garbage. Out of all of these massive levels that were launched with the huge hype behind it, I would say that the best one was Save As, but I mean best as a technicality. I wouldn't really say it goes above decent. I really liked Skytail, but that level wasn't really launched with any hype. Most of these big extreme demons just feel soulless and fabricated, which tends to happen when every single level is made by enough people to fill Madison Square Garden 5 times over and none of them speak the same language. Maybe it's just a me thing, but the novelty of the top 1 extreme demon tends to wear out pretty quick. As disappointing as it is, I don't think there'll ever be another extreme demon like Cataclysm, like Bloodbath, or even Alphabet X that justifies its hype and relevance ever again. Actually, Wazarita was pretty good. Kui wasn't so bad. Digital Ascent was alright too. You know what, I do like at least a couple of these levels. But when there's 31 people that have beaten the top 1, it's not anything special. Let me leave you with this. Go down the demons list right now, pick something complete random. Now ask yourself this. If this level disappeared from existence right now, would you personally feel anything or even remotely care? If not, try another level and ask yourself the same question again. Keep trying the level until you find another that intrigues you. And another. 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 And another.